All right, so we're doing the Thursday tech training on DocuSign and commissions. There she is. And we've got some people joining us today, which is always a pleasure. Actually got Jen Dixon here, who I actually inherited this class from. Just thank you very, very much for joining me. I'm humbled. But let's go ahead and jump in. DocuSign is probably one of my longest classes because I took a DocuSign training class, so I know like a bunch about it. So I try really, really hard not to let it dominate the entire time and then go into, because then I have like no time to talk about commissions. So I'm going to try to get through everything. But if I go fast, tell me to pump the brakes, ask questions. It's the best way for the content to grow, and I like fielding questions. So don't be shy with me. But there's a lot that DocuSign can do, and I'd love to share as much as I can with you with the time that I have today. So that being said, one of the first things that I'll talk about on any of my tech trainings is answers.kw.com. So if anybody doesn't know about this resource, make sure that you have this memorized or bookmarked, answers.kw.com. It's all about command training and a variety and a smattering of other things. But you can put in a topic like DocuSign, and you'll get a bunch of articles all about it. So if you're having trouble with this specific part of any topic in general, but in this example, DocuSign, but you don't know the keyword that might be associated with it, you can kind of come here and find like the get started, look for that. And once you're in here, you'll notice on the left that there's a bunch of other articles that might help you kind of dial in to maybe the keyword that you weren't aware of that you were trying to find. So it's a way to kind of like, okay, I know I should start in DocuSign. Maybe I need to know more about just the workflow of it, or what have you. Great articles, well labeled. Sometimes there's videos. If I don't have an answer to something, I come here. So I can definitely say that this is a fantastic resource.
So that's anything KW and command?
Mostly command. There's a few of other things that they're tied into, but this is mostly command focused. But I've found some answers for like my KW questions and stuff are in there. There's tech in general. All right, so we're going to sign into command. So go to agent.kw.com, put in your username and password and sign in. And earlier in the week, we talked about opportunities a little bit, and I kind of break that up to kind of buy myself time for this session. Like I said, there's a lot to talk about with DocuSign. So I'm going to just kind of bounce through opportunities so that we can get to the DocuSign aspect of everything. So once you sign in on your home page, open up the little slider so you can see everything, and we're going to go into opportunities from here. So this is the tab where you can keep yourself organized in command. Again, I talked about this earlier in the week, but just so that we know where we are, you've got 3 different categories of the opportunities you can create, and then you can create an opportunity, and from that opportunity you create, we're going to go into DocuSign. Now, the reason I'm going to mention that is because when command says the word opportunity, DocuSign uses the word room. So you can think of those 2 words as about the same thing. So we're going to create a room in an opportunity in DocuSign. So they're kind of connected. And since a little bit, once you kind of get that connection, it gets a little bit easier. But you always want to go to your DocuSign room from your opportunity in command, and especially if you're going to create it for the first time so that it is synced up. And we're going to go through all those steps, and I'll show you why that's a powerful detail to know. So you've created, a contact, you've created an opportunity. Opportunity is in here somewhere. We're going to find it in this little tab, and you're going to grab the 3 dots. We're going to go to view details. We're going to go to documents. And then we got this little button over here, and it'll either say start a transaction or go to transaction. It might ask you whether you want to go to .loop or DocuSign. We're learning about DocuSign, so make sure you check that one today. And then just sign in. Pardon. So if this step didn't connect for you, then we'd have to go back to your settings and make sure DocuSign is connected. So if anybody has any trouble with that, reach out to me and we'll make sure that that's working for you. So right now, I'm in the space in DocuSign that's directly connected to the opportunity in command that I've created. It would be the same name here when you created it. I think I changed the name of mine to kind of organize things, so it might be different from this one in my example. But if you named this thing, like 123 Oscar the Grouch, it would say that up here. And you would be able to identify those 2 things. So right now I'm in DocuSign rooms, this room in DocuSign, which would be the same as this opportunity in command. So So one of the first things that we're going to do in DocuSign is pump the brakes and make sure that you got your NRDS number in there so that you have access to all the forms that you need. So you're going to click your picture in the top right. You'll go to Preferences. You'll go to Integrations. You'll go to Add Provider. Click the Realtor R. And then you're going to put in your NRDS ID number, last name, and the association, which is now alphabetized. It used to not be, it was a mess, but now it's wonderful. And you can click North Carolina Association of Realtors and validate that. And that's going to give you forms access to all the forms that the Market Center has mapped for you in DocuSign already. I'm going to talk about the pre-tagged roles and the mapping and all that stuff, but it's a definite time saver, and it's definitely going to save you a lot of frustration rather than uploading those forms manually. Do you need any help, Trima?
You click the picture and
Yep, I'll back up. So you're going to click
preferences.
Picture, Preferences, and that'll take you to here. And then you're looking for integrations. And then Add Provider. Oh, I'll spoil it. And then the Realtor R.
Okay, I have that.
Okay.
Listed as one of my providers.
Oh, great. Then you might already have it connected then. If you've used DocuSign and have had access to forms, it's likely that you've already taken care of this step. So once you've got that done, we get to kind of talk about the next sort of aspect of using DocuSign in Command. You've created the room with Command already, that's somewhere there, and we ran off somewhere else in DocuSign. Now you can go around DocuSign, it's just like signing in on the web. So you can go back to rooms, you can find all the different rooms that you have, and as long as it's a room that Command has created, you can work within that space and it'll stay connected, but Command needs to have created that room for that connection to be there. Now, if you're a little uneasy about any of that, the sure thing is to always go back to Command, say like, I'm lost, I don't know what room this is. I don't want to, if you create a room here, it won't connect to Command. You can just close it and click the Go to Transaction button. And then you've got that sure thing connection. You're right back in the space you expect to be in. So that's the workflow steps that I'm going to highlight again and again today. And I'll do it right now because this is probably going to be one of the most common clicks that you'll have if you're working with DocuSign and Command. So we'll go back to the home page, close DocuSign. We'll do it one more for everybody. Opportunities. You can go there for contacts too, but we're going to go through opportunities. Find your opportunity, details, documents, go to transaction. So that's your way through. Once we're in the space, we're going to decide to use this to do some document stuff. So you're going to want to add forms to here. We're going to go from DocuSign forms. You're going to notice that mine will say no access over here. Yours shouldn't say that because we took the time to put in your NRDS number. You should have access to all these forms. I don't have a number to put in, so I don't have access here. So once you put that in, you'll have access to all of the mapped forms from the Market Center. And we're going to talk about what that mapping is in just a second. So I'm going to bring any old thing that I have access to in. Just bring that. So you select whatever form, and now you've brought in something that showed up somewhere. There it is. And what you brought in is, you can think of it as kind of a template. If you were, and the reason I'm mentioning that is you can select multiple things and you can move them around and you have options. But if you were to choose to delete that, you might run into problems later in your room because you're removing the template from that room. So if you need to get rid of something, you're going to want to go to archive. If you've made some kind of a forms mistake, just archive it to get it out of the way and you still have access to everything you would expect. The delete button is a little bit more for like if somebody accidentally uploaded a picture of kittens and it definitely has no place in DocuSign at all whatsoever, then you can delete it, get rid of it, and then it's out of your way. So just be careful about what you're deleting as opposed to archiving. So you're going to select whatever it is that you're looking for. Let's pick whatever I brought. I think I brought this in. So you've got some forms in here. You can select multiple ones, and you're going to want to send this out for signature. So you're going to create an envelope. So let me make sure I'm not moving too fast for myself here. All right. So you're going to stuff an envelope, and there's a little bit of a trick here because it looks like this, but that's the email button. I wish that was an @ symbol instead and that the envelope button actually looked like an envelope, but it's the pen. We're going to click the pen that says create envelope. And that's going to try to kind of visualize taking an actual piece of paper that you brought to your desk and you're going to put it in an envelope and you're going to have it all set up for someone to sign, all the fields set up in there for them to go on. And I'm actually going to go back one step because I did now remember what I was forgetting. There's two different spaces where you fill out a form in DocuSign. I call them the boring stuff and the exciting stuff. I don't know if anybody else calls it that. That's what I call it, just so that we can all kind of stay with each other. So I'm going to go back real quick. We'll just save and close and keep that envelope there. We'll go back to documents. So the boring stuff, so to speak, is the kind of stuff that just looks like a typewriter. If you click the form in the documents area, it'll bring up a little preview of it all. And you should be able to click in these boxes and type in whatever you like. This stuff. If I get this out of the way. A lot of the stuff will already be populated depending on what you filled out in your details section before. And because this is a big circular thing, depending on where we're jumping on the carousel, we're going to come back around to that. There's really no beginning.
How about some forms, it'll give you your information, and other forms it won't?
If by information you mean what we're looking at here, like the address?
No, I'm talking about other forms where it goes to put our name in, but it won't put our phone number in. Or it'll put our agent number, our license number, but it doesn't put our name in, or different things like that.
It depends on a couple of things. So
I think that's what you were talking about, the stuff that we already have filled in somewhere.
and I'll point out what I think you might be getting at here, but this is where you do quote unquote the boring stuff. You fill that out and save it to close it. Now, Dreamer was asking about how some things might show up that you expect and some things don't. There's two sections that you might want to pay attention to as far as the details that populate. The one in DocuSign is just details here. And if you fill out any of these fields by clicking edit, this is the stuff that'll populate out onto the forms for you. Now, the reason you might not notice something sometimes or maybe another time is that it remembers what you're doing as you go. So you can come in here and fill all this out when you bring up a form that has a field that knows it should be looking for something on this form, which means it would have to be mapped in some way.
That's for an individual form. I mean, for you as a person, as the agent. Like when you get to page 13 or what is it now, 16, 15, where it populates your agent information.
Yes, and you should have your, this detail section will populate on any form you bring in all the way to the left here, if that answers. So if you've got your own agent information on here on a form that asks for it, it would draw from this section. I'm going to see if I can find like listing agent
So that
one.
means you would have to type it in every listing that you have or every buyer that you have.
Not necessarily. It depends on how well you're utilizing Command and DocuSign. So in this case, I'll go back one to answer your question. So here's one place you can put all that stuff in, and it would go to forms. If you opened a form and filled out that information, it would populate here, and going forward, it would populate on other forms because it'll remember your work. So it goes both ways. And then furthermore, in Command, there's a details section over here that you can click. So where we were found the little documents tab, if you click the details in here, there's some fields that you can fill out anywhere it says synced here. You can fill out those fields by clicking the really hard to see ghost pencil there and filling all this stuff out properly and saving it. And then that stuff, when you click sync transaction, will sync to the details that we just looked at in DocuSign and fill out those things for you. So a lot of that stuff would already be in Command for you. It's going to know your name. It's going to know, you'll put in the property that you have, so you can just search it here, in other words. So 123 West Main Street is always the example, but if you put it in something, it's going to ask you for that, and then it'll take it from there and fill in those blanks for you. So if you sync it up, you don't have to type in all that stuff in DocuSign because it's going to find its way to the details, and then the forms that are calling for that information, that have been told to call for that information, will find it. Does that get it right? Okay. So let's get out of here. We're going to go back to the DocuSign. So this is the details section. So when we're talking about the boring stuff, quote unquote, in the documents part of DocuSign, when you look at a document here, a lot of the stuff might populate from those details that you've synced up. But this is where you would go to kind of set up something for a particular person. You're going to type in the address, typed names, anything that you would type on. That's not signature or, officialized like that, the boring stuff. So you set up the form here and you save it. And then you'll stuff an envelope. So you can go and see any envelopes that you've already made over here if you've started one and work with them there. In this case, I'm going to go back through the steps of creating an envelope from the document section. So click whatever you're working on, find that pen, create envelope, and that's going to create an envelope for you to send out. Now you just saw I clicked on the envelope section. It's going to show you all the different envelopes that you've sent out. Every time you've got a package of forms to send somebody, you're going to create an envelope. And in any particular transaction, you're probably going to be sending multiple envelopes. If you don't take the time to name them here, they're all going to say, please DocuSign only. So they'll all have the exact same title, and it'll be hard to kind of organize what envelope was for what purpose. So make sure you take the time to name this something that helps you remember why you sent that envelope in the first place. So if it's different people think of it in different rounds. So if you're like, this is the first round of stuff that because I always send that, or this is the working with real estate agents, or this is the offer to whatever it's going to be. But give yourself a clue. Otherwise, when you open up those envelopes and they all say, please DocuSign, and you need to go back and find something, you're going to be completely lost and it's frustrating. So name it something. And then you can always preview it here if you want to just, take a look at it. You can't change any of the boring stuff in this tab. You do that on the back, on the document side, because you've already typed on it, quote unquote, and put it in an envelope. But you can preview it here, make sure it's what you expected it to be. And then we're going to add a recipient. Pre-tagged roles is what we're going to choose. Now, what this is asking for is on this form already, there are predetermined spots where a buyer might, a buyer 1 and a buyer 2 would be indicated to sign. So someone's taken the time to put those boxes on the form already, but they want to know, is 1 buyer going to be assigned to this, or 2? Or are you going to not use the pre-tag rules and just kind of do it yourself? That'll be if you chose another option. We're going to say there's 2 buyers. We're going to add selected. So now you've got 2 people participating in the signatures of this document. You're going to put in their name, 1, 2, and then an email. And there we go. Cool. Cool. Copy it, paste it. All right. So now we've got the steps, and this screen is got a lot of options on it, even though there's like nothing here, it looks like. So we've named the envelope, we looked at the form, we've added 2 people to it. Now we're going to say, do we want to select what order these people receive this document? And right now it's selected as 1 and 2. So it would send out as name 1 needs to sign. When name 1 has signed, that condition has been met, and it'll move on to step 2. In this case, it would be name 2 needs to sign. So it'll go forwards like that.
I always put myself as 1 if I have to sign a document. Put myself as 1 so they can see that I've signed before they get it.
Cool.
And then I found out that documents that people don't need to sign, but I just need to send them, that little need to sign pull down menu has a lot of neat little stuff in it.
Yep, and that's the next thing. So one of the cool things you can do is set it up if you need to say like, we're going to add a recipient from an email address. In other words, I want someone that doesn't need to sign this document. So say name
Send it to
3.
an attorney or something.
Yeah,
Once everybody
precisely.
signs it.
You can go to receives a copy, or you can go to needs to view. And it's a little bit different between those two. So if you set it up another email. So right now it would be, let's say 3. So 1, 2, 3. It would be this person signed, that's met, moves on to 2, buyer 2 needs to sign. We'll say that's met, and then it moves on to this person receives a copy. Now, if for some reason you needed to do a situation like this, for whatever reason you might need to do that, someone would need to sign, then this person will receive a copy. As soon as they receive the copy, it would move on to step 3. But if you change this to needs to view, it would person signs, then it goes to step 2. This would stop here until someone opened that email and said, I viewed this, then it would move on to the next step. So there's to give you an idea of the different logic that you have. And you can set this up too. You can make 2 1s and a 3. So both these steps happen at the same time, and then it moves on to another. So you got options. And the little dots, you can rearrange things, Yeah. So there's that too. There's also the option to add an authentication code if you want. So whatever you think you should do that. If you want to add a layer of security, if somebody's sharing an email account for some reason, that might be a reason. I'm sure there's other reasons we can come up with why you might need to password protect something.
I'm noticing this instead of the .loop, you can give the same email address for two different people.
Yes, you can, because I've done examples with me where I've sent documents
Well,
for
I
two different
have-
versions of my own email address.
Like some older people, and they only have one email address, but you need two different signatures. And DocuSign and .loop, you couldn't do that. They had to have two different signatures.
I think you can do that. You might want to. Recently, I tried to do something similar to that. If somebody's already got a DocuSign account, even though you've sent it to a different name, it may sign them in and have it sign their own signature. So you might have, but I'd have to
I've
test
done
that
it
to
in
be certain.
DocuSign
Yeah.
With the same email, so I got that part working. I just can't figure out how to sign in person.
That actually, it's not part of the content, but we can, if you want to stick around when we're done, I know how to do that. I can talk you through it. Yeah, in-person sign. That just comes, you know where I said. So you can also add a private message here. This is for just this person, not the other two. So you can give them, don't give them the passcode here, because so to speak, that's a lot like locking up your bike, but then duct taping the key to your bike seat. It's not doing you any real favors that way. So you'd want to put in here, like text me, when you get it, and then I'll text you the password so that it's on a different avenue. So that if somebody else opens the email, they're not going to get the password and then put it in, and if it's not for the intent. So just keep that in mind. Discard those. Email subject and email, that's just sending an email. We know about that. Just make sure that it's in some way personalized so people know to expect it. When something says, please DocuSign and then blah, blah, blah with forms, some people might conclude that this is just some spam or something. So make sure that they're expecting it from you, put your name on it so that it sounds like it's, not just some robot asking them to sign something. So let's move on to next. And I'm going to get rid of that. We've got two signers here. Name one and name, oh, I got rid of the wrong one. Add pre-tagged, fire two, select. We'll just really quickly put these back in there. Next, well, I've got two of the same emails there, so let's yeah, should be fine. All right, so now this is what I call the exciting stuff of DocuSign. So when people think of making a form happen, this is usually the screen that pops up in their head. This is the one where you're moving around all the boxes. You'll notice here that this stuff is already here, and any other form you've got access to from the Market Center will already have that mapped for you. So as long as you're happy with this being mapped as you see it, you'll know that name one is the yellow boxes. You can switch to name two for the blue boxes, and if they're where they're supposed to be, you can just send it and everything's all set for you. So on a form that's got a bunch of fields, it can save you a lot of time. But if you need to arrange your own boxes for whatever reason, this is how you do that. And a lot of the keyboard shortcuts can come in handy here. You can notice you can select many at once and move all of them, which comes in handy. Just, a couple. You can select these two and go Control-C to copy, and then Control-V and paste a bunch of them, and then grab them and move them wherever you want. If you made a mistake, you can go Control-Z and get rid of everything. It's a lot like working in a designs program if you're making pictures. So if you think that way, if you grab things and use your keyboard shortcuts, you can save yourself some time.
You said Control-C or Control-T?
So when you
Delete.
to undo is Control-Z. So the cut, copy, paste, undo. The keyboard shortcuts, which I talk about on the Monday class, but I love those keyboard shortcuts for stuff like this.
I can figure out how to add. I've never been able to delete.
I don't think it's, well, I don't think there's the keyboard because there's the delete already, but undo is kind of it'll look like delete. And it's because if you'll copy and then paste and then I hit undo, it looks like delete, but really I'm just taking a step back. Yeah. But I love the undo if you're in designs and if you grab like the wrong template and you accidentally knock it and then you're trying to like edge it right back where you just hit, undo, and it's exactly where it should be. So it could save you some. With these fields, all of this stuff on the side here, if we've got specific questions about them, I'd love to answer them, but I feel like, especially with present company, people are fairly familiar with the different parts. So we know what signature is and initial is and date sign and all that stuff. The ones that I'm going to highlight are the differences between like radio button and checkbox. So you've got checkbox and radio button. These look like two, fairly similar functioning things. The radio button comes with you must pick one and only one. So you can't skip it and you can only choose one selection. So if I move these here, move this one down here, I'm pretty much saying you got to choose this or that, or it won't let you go on. It's a required field. You can turn off the required fields over here if you'd like for them to be able to skip it. But that's what the radio buttons are saying. The check boxes, you can add as many as you like, and you can choose or not choose as many as you like. So if it's like choose A, B, or C, or none, you can skip it all together, or you can choose multiple boxes. So that's the difference between the check boxes and that. And you can make the check boxes conditional down here in validation. So you can say select at least, at most, exactly, or range, and then set whatever number that is over here. So if you want to use check boxes because you can only choose one radio button, but they could choose many options, but you don't want them to skip it, you can say check boxes. They can choose as many in this category as you want. So you'd say select at least one, and then they have to go to that field and fill it. And this way they don't miss it. Because in DocuSign, it's going to bring you down when you hit start. It's going to like speed you to the different places that are only the places that are required. So that brings me to, well, before we go to recipient preview, I want to point out this last thing. We got pre-fill tools. So if you missed something in the boring stuff, you kind of have a second chance with this. Go to the bottom here. These are like gray fields you can bring in. So this kind of looks like a typewriter a little bit, and you'll see what I mean here. So I want to show you that, and I'm going to copy it and move it over here to illustrate something too. So you can type things in there, and you've got some, so this would be if you need to put something on the document, not for them to interact with, because they won't see the box, they won't be able to interact with it. It's just going to look like printed word. But you've also got a strike-through option, which we are all going to use ethically because we're all ethical people interacting with our forms. I know that it makes Teresa a little bit nervous to have a little strike-through here, but that's something that you can use, for whatever reason.
Change the color of that box to the line too.
Let's find out. Color and
You
thickness.
can make it blue.
Ooh, let's make it blue.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that many. Mine comes up, I can do like blue, red, or black,
Oh, I got loads up here, it looks like.
and you can make it thinner.
Oh, you can even put in your own specified, like if you're getting real specific with your very favorite shade of red, you can put in the programmed red color.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so once we're here and you've got the form set up, you've got it all mapped, you can go to recipient preview. So up here, you're going to see, you can simulate how they're going to interact with this form. And I want to show you this little thing that I wrote with typewriter. You can see that where the white box was, you can't read the word buyer anymore. So it does do a little bit of an overlay. So be aware of that. If you're trying to kind of squeeze something in, wherever that box was is going to have a little white sort of overlay, and it might get in the way of whatever's underneath it. So be aware of that.
I use that a lot.
We've got the desktop view. We've got the tablet view. If someone's using tablets, we've got the phone view. And it's important if you've got a form that's got a lot of fields on it, if you've done a lot to it, there's a lot of different things to sign, and they're signing on their phone, you might want to stop here and take a look at it and make sure, because it kind of squeezes it together, that they're not getting a bunch of text boxes that are overlaid on each other or disorganized or something.
I wish they fix some of the forms so they don't do that. They don't give you enough space. They have a typewriter space and they don't give you enough space. Like in some of the forms, it's just a typewriter line and they go to the next line. So you have to kind of stair step through. Yeah,
and that's why I love that recipient preview a little bit, where I can feel like I can kind of tailor it in, because I've made a lot of the onboarding forms, and so I made friends with DocuSign doing that. But yeah, and if I check those things, you can take a look at it and see, like, is it blocking all of the stuff that you need to read, or do you need to shrink it down, or so you can kind of work with it that way. You can resize things a little bit. That's, if that helps. And another cool thing with that is if you grab one of whatever size, it'll paste out as that same size. So
yeah, that'll do the other ones that's that size.
So once you're here, you like everything, you'll be able to send it out. I'm not going to send it because I'm not certain whose fake email addresses I may have popped in. So I'm just going to leave that alone. But if you click send, it would go to those inboxes in the steps that we discussed. You know, step 1, step 2 needs to sign whatever it is that we have assigned. I do want to show this last little detail in the recipient preview. You can rotate between the people that need to sign up here. When you switch to name 2 and it looks blue, you're going to notice that the fields on here are still yellow. It's still for signer number 2. It's just if one person's interacting with it, they're like player 1 and they're always yellow. And that's all that really means. So they'll all be in the places you would expect for, you know, each individual person. Just don't let the colors throw you off. All right, so I'm going to go back and we're going to say that we sent this out and that everybody signed it. And now we've got it in DocuSign. You're going to get your notifications in your email. If you've got your settings sort of as they come as the default settings, you'll see when someone's viewed something. You'll see when someone's completed signing something. You'll get a little link in your email that'll take you to DocuSign to see all of that. Once you've got something in here, you've got something signed, now you need to bring it back to command. And this is where I feel like DocuSign has an edge in command over some other options. So we're back in command now. We're going to go over to the documents section. And here is where you got your different checklists. You got listed, under contract, closed, whatever step you happen to be in. And you got the checklist of things that are required or conditional, all depending on how you're going through your workflow, what you need to do. Was an update maybe a month or 2 ago that added these 2 little boxes. So you'll notice I can't grab any of this stuff right now. And what that's saying is it doesn't know what resource I'm drawing my documents from. I had to tell it.
I noticed that, and then I felt really stupid because I didn't notice it before. And now I feel better because it was just happening.
Yeah, it was new. And I got a lot of calls that week. There are people that were like, "Why are these all gray?" It's like, well, they updated. So you can choose from DocuSign or your computer. So if you've downloaded your documents from wherever, or even DocuSign, you can download them to your computer and tell command, I'm going to do that. I'm going to my computer, and then you can go to browse, find it on your computer, and it pops it in there. So that's that step. If we're using DocuSign, I'm going to say I'm going to attach files from DocuSign. I don't have to download them or do anything with it. They're already in the room there. And then I'm going to choose my working folder. And from past trainings where I found the folder button, you're telling DocuSign, you're telling command, what folder in DocuSign am I looking for this document? Now, if you haven't created a folder, don't worry, because every DocuSign room technically has at least one folder that cannot be deleted. It's called room docs. Room docs. So if you haven't created a folder at all and you know there's forms in there, select room docs, and now it knows it's looking for DocuSign in the folder called room docs, and you'll be able to find whatever documents you've processed in that room. Now, one of the reasons that I like this little drop down is that if you click the different folders, let's see which one of these has something in it. There it is. You'll notice that these are kind of tidy little titles. They're only little one-liners, but some documents might have a title that's accidentally like a million miles long with a bunch of like computer language looking stuff. You'll notice that this like turns aqua when your pointer is over it. So if you've got something in there that's got like a really long title, the box is going to stay the same width, and it's going to keep going down and down and down and kind of keep going. So when you put your pointer over it, the entire block of that title will turn aqua. So you'll be able to see individual forms that way, and it can be a little unwieldy. So if you find a way to title your forms something more tidy, you won't have to deal with that. But a way that you can kind of get rid of some of that chaos is when we're in DocuSign, in the documents area, in the room that you're working with, if you go to actions, add folder, you can add however many folders that you want and organize all of your documents in that room that way. So you can say like, I found the folder button for a 3rd time and create that. And now I've got these different folders in here that I can use just to organize things however I feel like I need to organize them. And you can use, yeah, that's a great example. If we're second offer, whatever it is, you can drag and drop these things to the different folders in DocuSign, just like that.
That is really going to help me because in this market, you've got to put into 3, 4, 5 offers, and you've got disclosures for every one of them. And
Yeah, and
That's a real-
that can really help organize things. If you've got a bunch of documents, you can select multiple ones and right click and move them in bulk. So you can do destination folder in the current room or wherever else, but current room for this example, I found the folder button for a third time and move it, it'll move all of those to whatever folder. So if you've gotten a whole bunch of documents, you know they're all going to one place, we need to get them there before some other documents get mixed up in there. Select all of them, move them in bulk. And you can always do the actions button over here, has a select all that you can grab. So if you've got like 15 things, you don't want to click 15 little white boxes, you can do it that way. So to come back around to the original point, here, if you've got them in the different folders and you've got a bunch of long titles and you organize yourself, when you choose whatever folder it is, the list isn't going to be nearly as long. You're not going to have every single document in the room on this little drop down. You're trying to find these titles. If you organize that way, you can select whichever folder button it's supposed to be, and then you'll be able to find the document that you need. So you'll notice that, whatever documents were in DocuSign are already here in this dropdown. You can select it and it's right there. You didn't have to download it from DocuSign. You didn't have to put it on your computer anywhere. You didn't have to file it anywhere on your computer. You didn't have to print it out and scan it or any of that nonsense. You did all the stuff in DocuSign, you got it signed, it came back, and then you just found it in Command and popped it in the box. Done. That's the part of DocuSign and Command that I think is really powerful. It enables you to just cut out those steps of filing and finding space in your computer. And
That has been a big help to me. And then I just kept beating myself up. Why haven't I seen that before?
so let me take a look at my little notes here because I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Checklists. Okay. What? Reorganizing. If anybody joins me next month, this whole tech training week is going to be reorganized, new and improved. So I've got different notes.
I mean, it's hard because people are on different levels of different spots, so it's hard.
Let me take a look. I guess I'll move over to really quickly just the opportunities option here. I want to talk about the three things that you can do with an opportunity. So we'll go back to that. So once you've created an opportunity, it can only go one of three places. You're going to move it down the pipeline, obviously, but as far as its ultimate fate, it will only end up in one of three places. So you can archive it, or you can mark it as lost, or you can move it all the way down to the closed. Those are the three places that an opportunity can end up. So the difference between them is if you're going to archive an opportunity, what you're pretty much saying to yourself is something about this opportunity's information is incorrect. And it's so incorrect that it's going to be faster for me to create a new opportunity properly than to deal with this. So I'm going to archive it. I'm going to move it out of the way. You can't always find those in a spot that I'll show you, and it'll be out of the way. I'll create a new opportunity. We're great. In the other option, lost opportunity, means this opportunity actually existed. The information in it is correct. This stuff actually happened. These are real names and everything is a thing, but the offer fell through or whatever it is, this opportunity isn't really doing anything anymore. And I need to create a new one for whatever reason, but this one is dead in the water. Then you're going to mark it as lost because it wasn't a mistake. It just didn't close. It's not something you're deleting. You're just marking it as lost. That'll get it out of your way too. And then the last place is closed. So if you've moved this thing all the way over to closed, and that's where it will live when it's closed, you've actually like, hooray, we all got paid, it all happened. It'll stay there for 30 days, and then it'll disappear from view. But it's not deleted, but it'll just disappear from view. And those are the spots that you want it to end up. And if you're using Command that way with your opportunities, if you're using the reports function, or if you're looking at any of the numbers and the opportunities here, as far as potential income and probable income, it'll help make those numbers more and more accurate if you're using the pipeline properly. So if you want to see your opportunities over here, we've got all opportunities, and you can see some of them, but the ones that you got archived, go over here and say include archived opportunities and apply it. And then you'll see like all of the things have appeared. So that's how you see all of your stuff. So even the ones that are closed that may have been older than 30 days, you can find here that way too. So they're not gone.
How do you work with that Jonathan Montrose?
Yeah, he's on and off, I guess.
Spending a lot of time.
So we'll get rid of that. Let's see. Clear all and apply. All right, so this is that step. Is there any questions about DocuSign that I can answer before I kind of move into the next bit? Everybody keep up with me? Did it make you a true believer, Jen? Are you coming over?
And I'm not saying I'm jumping the fence tomorrow, but you did a really good job. I've never really understood how DocuSign worked at all, and I feel like I could go in there and I could run a transaction through it. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, okay. And then again, I'm you know where to find me probably better than anybody. So if you have any questions.
I wasn't a believer, Jen, but I like it a lot better. I feel like I have more control than I did with Dotloop.
We've got a question from Alice in the chat. Where is the button to see all opportunities, including older closed opportunities? So again, if you go to your opportunities tab here, all opportunities at the top. And then if you want to make sure you're seeing everything, click filters, include archived opportunities, but your closed ones should be there. You can filter by only closed if that's what you want, and by a variety of other filters too. So if you're on a team, you want to know just the owner of that, and all of their opportunities or anything like that. But if you hit apply with that little toggle, you should theoretically see every opportunity that you've got, that you've ever had. And you'll be able to filter it. And it's on a fun little list that you can, filter by, commission or phase. So if you need some stats, that way you can look at this list. Does that answer your question, Alice? Yay, all right. So the next one is talking about commissions, which I feel like present company probably knows a little bit more about than I do, but I'm going to do my best. And if anybody, catches me out of line, please correct me or ask any questions you see along the way. So let's talk about offers and commissions and all of that. So we're in the opportunity, just like we would normally find documents and go to transactions. I'm going to take the opportunity to highlight that workflow again, but you would start over here and go to offers and commissions. Now here I've got a couple of sample ones already that I've just kind of dummied up, and we're going to create a new one here, but there's a cool way to kind of compare things really quickly here if it's something you want to do. So you go to add offer, do new one again, create an offer, and you kind of follow the bouncing ball here. It's pretty straightforward. You can change the name if you made a typo or whatever, and you're going to go through these different little nodes. So go to parties, fill in all of the information that you feel is relevant. It has to at least have the ones that have the little asterisk. So name and name. And then we're going to go on to terms. This stuff is probably speaking more your all's language than mine, so I'm not as familiar with this thing of it, but do know that if you put something here and something here, it'll add together to this thing over here. Fill in all of this stuff, as accurately as you can. And this is not official numbers. This is for you to kind of compare as you're going. So once you've filled in all of this stuff the way that you expect it to be, whatever it's going to be, go to agent analysis. You can type in just some notes. And these notes can be made visible to your client. So keep that in mind when you're typing. You might want to, make it friendly language. So some more pros, other cons. Here are some more pros and cons, and save it. So you've got these different offers that have come in, you're keeping track of them all. You can accept them or reject them, or you can compare them. So let's say, okay, this is all these ones. You can kind of see sort of a high level view of them all. I'm going to compare this one, and that one. So we can go to compare offers up here, and you get a little rundown side by side of all the different offers that you got. So you can just quickly see, all right, this is what's going on. You can see your summary and your pros and cons. You can also email this to somebody. And once you go over here, you set email, set up this message, how they want them to receive it. Pardon me, those little eyeballs I want to get your attention on. You can see a little preview of this cross compare email here. So if you've got these different offers that you've selected and you want to show this to the person you're working with, you can send them this kind of flashy, nice looking email. And they can look through it and they can see your pros and cons and summaries and stuff. That's why I said, make sure that you're typing with language that you're proud of, that makes sense to somebody. And you can just really quickly, you put in a listing, you get like a bunch of offers, you send them as you go, and they can see them all and compare them really easily. So that's one cool thing. You can go to send and it will send straight from there as long as the email address up here is what it should be.
Did you have a chart?
There was a chart. Let's go back one. So you've got a chart internal for you by clicking compare like that.
And we get the chart.
I think, let's see what happens when we download it. Let's see what view we get. You get that. So you can download it and print it if you wanted. So then go to offers and commissions. You can accept one here. I feel like at this point, it's kind of straightforward. You can accept whichever one you want. And you can change your response, manage commission, edit the offer. So I'm going to change my response and say, yep, because I don't mean to accept any offers that are fake. Once you've done that, you can go over to manage commission and move through the motions of bothering the people in the market center, with all the proper ways, and submit that commission request. I think one note that I got from Ashley is that everybody misses this big green submit button over here. So make sure that by the time you do it, you click that so that it actually goes to the people. I'm gonna go back over here and undo this again. So some notes about that are once you click the submit button, it's kind of locked in. It's going under like review. Ashley can see it, but you kind of can't modify it anymore once you click submit. So make sure that things are definitely in a row before you click that. And it's the same thing over here in documents. We rewind back to when we were putting these documents in all these different lists. Once you've got different things in this list, the submit to MC button will go active. Once you click that, it's going to go under review. People are going to look at it and they don't need all of the forms to be changing while they're doing that. So it locks in. You can't make those changes after you click that button. And if they, the people reviewing it decide that there's something wrong, they'll get in touch with you, and let you know what corrections need to be made, and they'll release that to you. Also note that the different checklists have their own submit to MC button. So you can go to listed, put in the document, submit that to MC, and then continue working on another list, which has its own button assigned to it. So you can submit as you go that way. So I think I actually got through my content in under an hour, which might be a DocuSign class first. But that also means I'm probably talking really fast. Does anybody have any questions or clarifications, or does anybody know better than I do about commissions that they would like to share some knowledge with?
Yeah, I've had Ashley tell me I need to submit stuff for her to see it. I don't know why she would say such a thing.
Well, I mean, she does. Yeah, you don't want to see. I don't say she won't see your contracts that you submit. That goes somewhere else.
No, but she just says for her to see it, I got to hit submit button.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah, that's a fact. Does anybody else have any questions? Jen or Alice, or any other questions?
This might be an Ashley question, and I apologize if it is. So for coaching clients, for example, and they need to deduct out for me to get paid for coaching services, and that goes in the deduction. Is there anything in particular that they need to mark in that deduction category?
This is me kind of proposing on the fly, but I think that's, well, you can correct me if I'm wrong. That's probably not so different from processing like a referral split, right? You have to go into the menu and they have to go.
That makes sense.
But I'm not 100% on that. So I wouldn't take that all the way to the bank, and definitely ask Ashley for sure. But I do know that that's something that if it's like that, then it has to be done by the person submitting it sort of intentionally. I personally wish there was kind of a prompt that popped up like that. I wish the opportunity was marked as whatever kind of like referral transaction. It would say like, hey, don't forget to fill out this thing. I don't think it's doing that right now.
No, but that's a great idea.
Yeah, because I think I definitely, and for good reason, I think makes, the person who referred out something a little uncomfortable, that they have to be knowledgeable of that, chase it down.
Agree.
Okay, everybody good? Unless there's more questions, that's all the content that I have. and I get to give everybody back 6 minutes. As they say.
Thanks, Jonathan. I came in late, so and I can tell you that it's very different from my usual DocuSign, because I've been using DocuSign for over 10 years, and this is a different animal.
That's where you were using the e-signature side as opposed to the room side, right?
I haven't been using it in Command. I've used it outside of Command, and it's structured differently. But one thing I saw that I will is great is it looks like it will put the boxes at the usual fields. That all has to be done by hand in my DocuSign program. So I have to put every tag everywhere, and every now and then you miss one.
Yeah, and if you're using that account regularly or go at all, we can set up templates that'll save that work for you too. So if you're not using the one that came with Command, like we're trying to switch you over to, we can solve that problem one form at a time for you. So you only have to do it like that one last time, and then it'll save it.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's sort of the difference between the DocuSign Room and e-signature. The e-signature side, you can set up templates for yourself. And if someone just gets a general DocuSign account, it's usually an e-signature account, which is why if somebody had an older version of DocuSign and then they came over to KW, that you can't port it into Command, as it's a different kind of account.
Yeah, but I did, just having to add a tag to everything is incredibly, it's so time consuming. It's such a pain. I mean, obviously, one has to make choices, like if somebody's going to be dual agency or not dual agency or designated, whatever, those are boxes to be moved. But there you go. So that interesting. But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And if you find yourself moving a bunch of boxes, make an appointment with me. I can show you how to do templates and save you some fuss.
Oh God, that would be so good. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Take care.
Bye, everybody.